Baja Fish Grill in Ocean City, California serves up all kinds of seafood and is the home of the next eating challenge in the series with Raina. We were served up 10 pounds of food reflecting every type of creature on the menu, from shrimp to swordfish, served on beds of rice and french fries. We didn't have a time limit, but we knew this would be a big test for our guts. Could we handle this ocean of a feast in front of us? With no fanfare, no BS, and no Stalin, it's time for a freak eating challenge.
So you got it? All right, can everybody give us a countdown from 10?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Eat that fish! Eat that fish! Come on, you're so good. Come on, guys, eat that fish! 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 Eat that fish!
Eat the big one! Eat the big one!
Try this. Try yourself. Woo! Woo! Yummy. Oh, good.
Welcome back to another episode of Freak Eating. Thank you to Raina for inviting me to another one of her food challenge extravaganzas. Check out her channel link down below to see more of her food videos. On this day, we were dared to eat basically every type of seafood on the menu of Baja Fish Grill. Everything you could think of was represented here. Shrimp, scallops, catfish, calamari, and tilapia were fried up and served on a bed of french fries, while salmon, swordfish, mahi-mahi, trout, and swai were grilled and served up on a bed of rice. It was a seafood lover's dream, even if it did include a humongous amount of carbs. The kitchen staff was extremely accommodating and let us film the cooking and plating process, which was really generous considering how crowded the kitchen area really was. I've only eaten swordfish a few times in my life, and if you haven't eaten it, it feels more like eating a dense cut of steak than actual fish. It's one of my favorite types of seafood. This was my first time eating trout, so that was a treat too. The trout didn't stand out to me, but it wasn't bad either. The fried platter was delicious, but honestly kind of a blur since the fry batter became the dominant taste and texture of that entire serving tray. I would have preferred eating all the fish and shrimp grilled, but the restaurant wanted to showcase their fried options, so we went along with it. The shrimp were particularly tasty in fried form, while the calamari, or squid, seemed to take on an unusual amount of the fried coating. At any rate, the french fries underneath turned out to be a real chore because we were already dealing with a lot of food overall. There was no obvious strategy for how to tackle such an enormous quantity of fish, rice, and fries. Raina eventually settled in and started to mash up all of her fries and fried seafood together in the hopes of eliminating it quickly. In time, I dispensed with my own plastic silverware and started to use my hands to attack the fish portions more efficiently. But in the beginning, I was trying to keep it neat. The rice was tasty, but with so much of it, I wasn't looking forward to having to finish off the entire tray, though the grilled fish on top of the rice was incredible. The swordfish was delicious and the salmon was a delight. Everything in front of us was cooked incredibly well, and from a food prep standpoint as a customer, there was nothing I could complain about. Now, I could complain about the vast quantity of food in front of us, but that's my fault for choosing to participate in eating challenges. To keep my sense of taste fresh, I got several varieties of drink. Coca-Cola, High C, lemonade, and water were all there. The lemons that came with our platters were not required to be eaten, but they could help cleanse the palate where necessary. Rice became my mortal enemy during this challenge. While I sometimes struggle with eating lots of rice, this time I was completely overpowered. As I was trying to put down as much of the rice as I could, as quickly as I could, it all bunched up in my throat and I found myself suddenly unable to swallow any more food.
All the rice is sticking in my throat. Oh, what happened? It's like sticking, it won't go.
Asian rice eating power. Asian rice eating power.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
I can't.
If I drink, it will come back up.
Oh, that's it? You hit the wall?
No, it just take a second to clear sometimes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Take your time, take your time.
Yeah. Oh, fine. If I had a problem, I'll let you know.
I don't want her to die. I love her.
Yeah, I can.
It was particularly painful. I waited a bit, lollygagging at the table, playing with my food, shifting the fish and rice around on the plate, hoping that the massive rice would suddenly pass. When it did not, I realized I was in real trouble. It wasn't going anywhere, and my throat was just getting tighter and tighter. So I stood up and shook my body, remembering from past experiences that this would sometimes get my esophagus to relax and the food to pass. My throat was so tight at this point that if I drank water or anything else, it would have come back up. But nothing was happening. So I finally excused myself to the bathroom so I wouldn't disgust anybody watching us, and I basically coughed the rice out of my esophagus. It wasn't pleasant. In some cases, competitive eaters will actually cough food stuck in their esophagus back into their mouths and eat it, hoping nobody will notice. Sometimes they get disqualified because people think it's vomit. But this time, it was just too far gone. I returned to the table, and honestly, the only reason I continued was my sense of sportsmanship and competition, and to continue to push Raina as she continued this challenge. In any sort of traditional restaurant challenge, I would have been disqualified for what happened. But these events with Raina are different because they're special events set up with the owners, and in any case, we wouldn't actually pay for the food, win or lose. It's more of an exhibition for two competitive eaters to showcase their odd talents and to make YouTube videos about the restaurant, really. So that's why I chose to continue. There's no sense in sitting at the table looking stupid with a whole platter of fish in front of me. And that day, I also learned a trick from Raina, who was talking to me during the challenge, for how to eat rice quickly. And that is to keep hot water or hot tea handy. Hot liquids help to melt rice that's bunched up in your throat and force it down, or at least that's how she explained it to me. And we proceeded to get hot water in cups from the kitchen, and the rest of the challenge was a lot easier for me. So no matter how long you've done something, you can still learn new things about doing it better. Of course, eating rice with hot water isn't something I would have picked up from my family or experiences growing up. On the other hand, Raina's typical diet includes a lot more rice than mine does, and drinking tea or water, hot water with your food was more of a fixture for her. Now, I ate rice growing up for sure, but not very often, and there was no expectation that we'd try to shovel it down quickly, and we never really drank hot beverages with meals. Usually we just drank cold water. Most food challenges also don't feature rice in isolation. Usually you have cream or soup or some kind of sauce that you can use to kind of force it down, and it usually helps me to avoid these sorts of choking incidents. I tried using the fish to force it down, but that didn't work well, and the cold beverages weren't really helping. I needed hot water. I learned a pretty big lesson, and hopefully going forward, I'm able to avoid any sort of difficulty with eating lots of rice.
One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We have a winner! Good job, Raina.
finally got the last bite down. Nader just finished his rice. He's got the fries to eat. A lot of food, a lot of good food. It's really good. I don't know how he can do that. I want to get rid of the fries right away because I don't like fries. But so I didn't want to deal with the fries after the rice, especially because rice is good. Yeah. He has his own ways. I have my own ways. And for some reason, I like to use napkins.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Of seafood at Baja Fish Grill in Harbor City. Now, once again, it is sponsored by Lowe's. Download their app, they have rewards, free app, a lot of goodies on there. And thank you again one more time for all the cheering and everybody that was supporting us. You guys are awesome.
Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this fishy video. Thank you to Fish City Grill and Mo's app for putting this challenge together, as it was a delicious one. I'll see you all in the next video. So until we eat again, stay in school, don't do drugs, and eat like a freak.